Welcome to Pegwarmers. I'm Kevin, and I'm here to talk about toys. Today's episode has several different topics, but one of the things I want to focus on is the passing of Paul Reubens, aka Peewee Herman. Paul Reubens played the character of Peewee Herman in the late 70s, early 80s, and up into the 90s. As a kid of the 80s and 90s, I was most familiar with Peewee Herman as the kids' entertainment brand versus the HBO and stand-up comic version of Pee-wee. The slightly cleaned up version that was the star of Tim Burton's Peewees Big Adventure, and then the TV show Peewees Playhouse, and finally Big Top Pee-wee was the Pee-wee I grew up with and loved as a kid. It was just recently announced, and I'm sure most of you guys have heard, Paul Reubens died at age 70, and he had a 6-year private battle with cancer, which is just horrible. Paul Reubens' character, Peewee Herman, was very popular, especially with the children demographic, because he had a kids' TV show and kid-friendly movies. And then he got in trouble in the early 90s, and the nature of the crime really doesn't help you out when you're a kids' entertainer at all. And Peewee Herman, the character, was shelved. Paul Reubens did go on to do some work as other characters or other, just kind of build as himself, playing characters in other movies and shows and doing some voice work. He did eventually bring Pee-wee back for some TV spots here and there, and then a 2016 Pee-wee's Big Holiday movie. Peewee's Big Adventure came out in 1985. I did not see it in the theaters, but we taped it off TV, and I watched it a lot. Probably my biggest, takeaways from it as a kid, the Peewee Herman dance to the song Tequila just blew my mind, and my sister and I used to say to each other all the time, "Tell 'em Large Marge sent you." There's lots of other great lines in that, including, meet me in the basement of the Alamo, and there's just so much to that movie. There's a lot of hilarious stuff there. And then Peewee's Playhouse, which ran from about 86 to 1990, was probably actually the first thing I saw. I can't remember if I saw the movie first and then the show. I'm pretty sure I saw the show, and then the movie was on TV. And I could never quite reconcile the differences, because the movie and the show weren't really in the same universe, if you think about it. Like, Peewee's Playhouse, which is where he lives, is not his house in Peewee's Big Adventure. Peewee's Playhouse, that has all these living, crazy characters in it, a talking chair, that's not in Peewee's Big Adventure, but his house has all these intricate little devices, which actually reminds me a lot of the Ernest movies. His house has crazy contraptions going on it. Sort of an interesting parallel between those two characters. That as a kid I couldn't separate from the actor. I just knew the characters. But Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a cool movie. And like I said, I saw that after the show came out. And then Pee-wee's Big Top, again, I think I saw it on TV after it was out. I kind of wanted to see it in theaters, but we just didn't go see movies all that often. My favorite thing about Pee-wee, besides watching his show, was the toy line. And I didn't plan to do a whole Pee-wee's Playhouse episode this week. I would like to do that someday, but I am going to show off a few of the toys today, just out of a sake of respect for Paul Reubens. I just want to, share some of the cool toy things that he had. And you can see in the background here, I have the pull string Pee-wee doll. I had Peewee and Cherry. I got Peewee one Christmas and Cherry the next.
Okay, Kevin, I'm right.
How do you know?
Because I know I'm right.
It's talking Pee-wee!
Kevin, you owe me mucho kisses.
Does this say talking Peewee Herman? She was right.
I was right. I knew by the shape of the box, Kevin.
Mom, is this one from you?
Yep,
That's
from Mom and Dad.
Okay, you would gotten this. They came separate. Mom, talking Pee-wee.
You like talking Pee-wee?
And look, his arms.
What was that?
That's talking Pee-wee, and his arms and his legs move. That's how he growls.
Look at this. Pee-wee's opening the gifts. Boy, he is good.
Ninja Turtle! Yeah, I told you.
Back in the late 80s, My mom did pretty forcefully push me to get rid of them after Paul's discretions came out, but I always missed them, and so I did actually buy this one brand new in the package, but it was a very sun-faded and beat-up box, and I always planned to keep it in the box until I got a chance to make a video about him, but when I moved from my old house to this house, I just decided it wasn't worth storing him in that big box because it was so beat up, so I took him out. This is a talking Peewee. The little device inside, the little record inside, doesn't have the best audio quality anymore, but if you've ever played with one of these, you kind of know what happens over the years. I love you!
Hey, what's that?
Hey! Hey, what's that? Made you look! I'm not doing a great impression, sorry.
Hey, what's that? Made you look. I know you are, but what am I?
I know you are, but what am I?
Hello, I'm Peewee Herman.
Hello, I'm Peewee Herman.
I know you are, but what am I? I love you. Hey, what's that? Made you look.
He also does his kind of like yell, laugh thing, but it's not doing that one right now. It's random which phrases you get. But I always thought this was really cool. It's a great likeness. Really nicely detailed. He has some posability with like wires in his arms. His hands are hard plastic, his feet are hard plastic, but his body is pretty soft. And then, of course, the head's hard. There's no articulation at that head. But, you know, you can get a little bit of posability to have him sit in Cherry. His hands are kind of held open, so you could kind of put some things in there if you had some sort of item you wanted him to hold. He doesn't come with any real accessories. But I loved this doll as a kid. Really, really enjoyed getting him for Christmas. So like I said, I would like to do a bigger episode about this toy line at some point. So I'm not going to show off every item just to save a little bit of magic for that episode if I get to do it someday. But Peewee and Cherry was actually like my first exposure to this line. I mean, they're kind of the quintessential characters. Peewee's the main character. He spent a lot of time sitting with Cherry. And Cherry was just so kind of lovable. So back in the day, I don't even know what store it was, but some sort of like five and dime gift shop kind of store that we would frequently go to. My mom needed a card to send to somebody or, you know, maybe some wrapping paper for a birthday party. I picked out Peewee and my sister picked out Cherry. These aren't the original. Actually, this Cherry is my sister's Cherry, but I don't have my original Peewee anymore. But this was still in our basement from when we were kids, and I've put it into my collection. But Peewee and Cherry are classics. Peewee is a hard plastic action figure with articulation at his hips, his knees, his elbows, his shoulders, and I believe at the head. He has a soft goods suit jacket that does come off, which I thought was really fun as a kid. I would take it on and off a lot, and I also put it on other characters. I would put it on G.I. Joe figures sometimes if I wanted them to look dressed up for some reason. I would do like a James Bond kind of thing. It's a little bit large for a G.I. Joe, but not outrageously oversized because Peewee's so kind of skinny. He's got his little bow tie on, and just kind of a fun figure. Cherry is flocked, which is fantastic, because she just looks so fluffy in the show, and I think that was always a lot of fun. I have a few other characters sitting out here. I have Conky. Conky is the droid, the robot that gives the word of the day. What a weird robot. He has a typewriter for a head and a record player for a stomach. And this robot toy is a wind-up toy. And it would kind of vibrate around and the head bobbles. Sometimes the arms would tilt. And anyway, it just made for a really fun figure. I never had Conky as a kid, but always thought it was a really great design of a robot. It's actually pretty big. Some of the smaller characters, we have Terry. Terry is a pterodactyl. And this is another one of these walking toys. It winds up. I believe there was a larger Terry toy made in this line also that was more like the Peewee doll. But Terry was a pretty important character, showed up in a lot of episodes, and was kind of in the opening sequence quite a bit. We also have some of the, like, almost every episode featured some sort of a fact from Globey. So Globey is just sort of like a figurine with posable arms. He doesn't do a whole lot, but it's a fun world that they built. And they did make a Peewees Playhouse playset, which I do have. It's kind of like a laminated cardboard vinyl kind of display case type playset. But if you got everything, you really did build the Playhouse, and that's what was so fun about it. They built the whole world. It's not like, He-Man, where the show, he lives in a palace, and his mom and dad are there, and then the toy line, there's like Castle Grayskull, and that's all you got for He-Man to live in. And they don't make Randor till the end. They never make Marlena. This had the whole world. This really did have everything from the show. We got Jambi the Genie here. Let's see if we can get this to open up. It's the little genie head in a box. There we go. Mecha mecha hi, mecha honey ho. The person that played Jambi was actually one of the writers on the show. I think I learned years later, which is kind of fun. But this was like another thing. Conky would get a visit every episode. Magic Screen, usually, Globey, Jambi. It was like all these little segments, almost like a variety show that took place in this crazy playhouse as sort of a framing device. And then here we got Cowboy Curtis, Morpheus from The Matrix, perhaps his first action figure ever, with a removable hat. I did not have Cowboy Curtis. Like I said, I really only had Peewee and Cherry as a kid. But the little guys that live in the house, to me, are more fun than the human figures. But they did make several of the humans that came to visit in frequent episodes. And that's part of what made the show great, was like Peewee kind of had his little routine around the house, and then somebody would come and sort of interrupt and be a guest and change the dynamic and give the show something interesting for each episode. But overall, this Matchbox line is pretty well done. The likenesses on some of the humans aren't perfect, but I think they did a pretty nice job of capturing the look of the show and really representing everything. The puppet band is there. The marionette Billy, Magic Screen. Like, they really did make just about every character. And there was even Peewee as a regular figure, as well as a Peewee packed with his scooter that he rode on at the very end of every episode. Like, they really did make all the stuff you need to have the full Peewee Herman world. In the comments down below, let me know what your favorite Peewee Herman memories are, or bits from the show, or lines from the movie. It just brings back so many great childhood memories. This episode, we have a peg warmer. It's been a while since I've done the peg warmer segment on the show. I just haven't really noticed anything. I mean, there's always something that's kind of peg warming, something on clearance. But I love it when I walk into a store and see like a whole rack of something, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. And this one's kind of an interesting one because it's a Boba Fett figure. Bald old man in a brown robe Boba Fett from The Mandalorian just didn't seem to sell well. There's a lot of these figures hanging on the shelf, and if you're a diehard Boba Fett fan, a diehard Star Wars fan, you might want this, but Boba Fett without his armor is just not that interesting, and I could definitely see kids not caring about this figure at all. So, at my local Walmart, I saw a peg of Desert Dweller Boba Fett figures on clearance, and so he's this episode's peg warmer. I recently saw the Barbie movie, and I enjoyed it. Like, I laughed a lot watching it. My favorite thing about the Barbie movie was really just all the toy references, the real world, like, props of things that were action figures related. I really, really liked it. I'm trying not to spoil anything here, in case you haven't seen it. But, like, the Barbie land stuff, which you've seen in the trailer, you know, the dream houses and the cars and her kitchen and bathroom and all this stuff, I thought was really well done, and really funny, with the little nods to her not actually, like, using all of the stuff, you know, you just sort of pretend, and her outfit changing, and her, like, gliding to her car instead of, you know, like a way a kid would just move a character instead of going down the steps. I really loved that whole opening part in Barbie Land. The way they did that was phenomenal. Then she has to come to the real world, which makes sense. That's how these toy movies kind of work. Even think about Masters of the Universe, you know. He-Man goes from Eternia to Earth. And when she returns, things are just kind of messed up in Barbie Land. And that's kind of the fun twist of it. But it's also where the movie starts to get really goofy. There's definitely a big girl power message going on. And, you know, for people that love that, to hear that message, that's great. I thought it was pretty well done. It was very heavy-handed, but enjoyable. And then at the end, when it's sort of everything is right again, the ending to me felt odd. It was sort of like a strange wrap up. And again, like I don't want to give things away. So it just sort of was like, okay, she's gone from Barbie Land to the real world. She's come back. Barbie world is messed up, and she's, kind of set things right. How do we wrap this up? And it felt very much like a how do we wrap this up kind of ending to me. I get it. I'm not the core demographic, being a 40-some-year-old white male. I'm not who that movie was really made for, so I don't have a lot of room to critique it. But I enjoyed it. 3/4 of the movie was laughing through it, just enjoying the spectacle of it. But it does get a little strange, in my opinion. So yeah, again, just like any other topic on the show, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the Barbie movie. Are you seeing it? Are you skipping it? Did you love how it ended? Did you think it was a great wrap-up? Am I crazy for that? Or was there something else that you liked or disliked about the movie? For this episode, I've got 3 news items, and the first one is actually going to be Barbie related, so we're going to transition to that from talking about the Barbie movie. Barbie prices have surged. Yeah, we get that as collectors, right? Whenever a new Star Wars movie comes out, there's a lot of interest in old Star Wars stuff. Whenever there's a new Indiana Jones movie, there's a lot of interest in old Indiana Jones stuff. And there's a new Barbie movie coming out, so lots of people are interested in new Barbie stuff. Andy from Andy's Toys in St. Louis was on the radio the other day talking about how there was a huge surge right before the Barbie movie came out. He said kind of prices grew for... He kind of gave it like a year window leading up to the movie, but said the prices have already started to dip since the movie came out. And he's probably right about that. I think the one sleeper thing that might happen overall, Barbie brand probably creeps up right before the movie. But sometimes when a movie comes out, you do get like a specific item or a character that might spike right as the movie hits or right after that. For instance, the character Alan is in the Barbie movie, and it's a pretty funny character, played by Michael Cera. And the Alan doll was a, like, companion to Ken, like a Ken's friend. So if you wanted to have more guys in your world, Ken can have a friend named Alan. And the Alan doll is kind of a pretty forgettable page in the Barbie history book. And my friend Rose actually was telling me that she saw that the prices on Alan really spiked. I'm talking like a $30, $40 doll selling for like $400 right as the movie hit. She actually sold one that she had for around $200 and made a pretty good profit on it, and slimmed down her Barbie collection a little bit. It's very interesting how those things work. If you can hit it just right, if you have extra stuff in your collection that you want to get rid of, timing is everything. I actually have some Peewee Herman Funko Pops from when they came out. I'm going to use that as my segue into my next article. Funko reduces their workforce by 12 to 13%. It's about 200 jobs. And I hate to see people lose their jobs, but, companies have influxes of cash, whether they're doing well or doing poorly, and that usually directly relates to jobs. If the products aren't selling, then they need less workers. In all aspects of the company, and Funko is not the powerhouse that they once were. I think the momentum of the Funko Pop has kind of petered out to some degree. I'm sure there's still lots of Funko Pop collectors out there. I own a lot, but I'm not buying them as actively as I once did. Brian Marriott, who was the CEO of Funko for a while and then had shifted to another role in the company for a little bit, recently went back to being CEO, but has been placed on leave and is no longer the CEO. That's never a good sign. Funko's been on some rocky ground, but has had some pretty big investment. Basically, a firm of a conglomerate of several businesses were kind of like backing the company and supporting the company. Probably mostly companies that either thought they could make a buck or companies that like their licensed products get made as Funko products, so it feeds the machine, if you will. So I don't know. Can Funko reinvent itself? Can they come up with the next great product? Obviously, Funko Pop is huge. There's a lot of household items. I was at Walmart the other day, and when I was looking at the Pegwarmers, and I saw like some Funko Pop head mugs and things like that in the houseware section. They tried Dorbs. They've tried a bunch of different things over the years, the minis and stuff. I don't know what the next big thing is Funko can do. They've actually tried action figures a few times. We'll have to wait and see. But, I wish everybody working at Funko the best, and hopefully they can, get back on their feet and stabilize. Maybe some of the people can get their jobs back if they want them. And if they don't want to work at Funko anymore, hopefully the experience they had there will look good on their resume and help them transition into the next phase of their life. My next news article, John Lewis unveils their top 10 toys for Christmas. Now, John Lewis and Partners is a consulting firm. They are involved in a lot of different types of products. I don't know a ton about the company, but, they've got their finger on the pulse in housewares, in toys, in, fashion, all kinds of products. And they put out a list. I'm not going to hit every single thing on it, but these are some of the things that they predict to be kind of like big ticket items. This isn't like each little individual item you might get your kids, but like some of the pricier items that people might be looking for. And I've thrown a few here on the list. They really think that Barbie and 90s nostalgia is going to be a big driver this year at Christmas, so you will see that reflected in some of these items. First up is a Gabby's Dollhouse doll. I don't know if you've ever seen this show. It's definitely geared for kids. I think it's on Netflix Kids. But basically, Gabby is a real-life actress. She has a play dollhouse, and then she gets transported into the dollhouse to hang out with all these little kittens. My stepsons find it very enjoyable, and it's not terrible. It doesn't, drive me crazy when it's on. It's a very musical kind of show. The different characters, will sing their own little songs, and I don't know. There's a DJ character, and I don't know. It's pretty fun. But so I guess they're thinking this doll's gonna be pretty popular. I have seen the toys at stores before, different formats, little figurines, and the dollhouse itself, as well as these more traditional doll. Barbie's convertible is gonna be a big hit this year for Christmas, apparently. That doesn't surprise me. If Barbie is on the rise again, and the Barbie movie gets it back in people's mind, and some girls see the movie and they want Barbie, her car, it gets a lot of screen time in the movie, and depending on whether this is based on the movie or just a Barbie car anyway, I could easily see that being a popular toy this year. Melissa and Doug is a company that makes a lot of educational toys, and their Barber roleplay set is expected to do well. So this is going to be like play scissors and play razors and maybe shampoo and stuff. Like a little play salon. I know as a kid we had a Play-Doh barbershop set, and you would put the Play-Doh inside the little figure, and it would grow out through the holes in the head, and you could cut it off. I had tons of fun with that, so I could definitely see this thing being interesting, and Melissa and Doug make really high-quality products for young kids. Hasbro's big item on this list is the Furby. So I guess Hasbro's got some plans to bring the Furby back yet again. That would definitely tie into that 90s nostalgia. I missed the Furby. I was too old. I was not into it. I don't really get it. To me, it feels a lot like the Hatchimals, where you get this thing, and the more you talk to it, the more stuff you kind of unlock that it can do. Is that fun? Maybe. It's not really my play pattern, but none of the things that are my play pattern are on here. There's no action figures on here. So, that is what it is. The last item I picked out off their list was the Lego Holiday Main Street set. Lego, of course, is always going to be a popular Christmas item, and there's always some, really big sets that come out around the holidays that, are fantastic to get on a Christmas tree. I remember getting, a big Lego castle one year and a Lego pirate ship one year for Christmas, and just, being ecstatic and spending all day building them after that. So in the comments down below, let me know what you think of my news topics that I picked for this week. And we're going to wrap up this episode with 2 items that are new to the collection, with kind of mini reviews of 2 action figures, because we didn't have enough action figures in this episode. First up, I've got the Masters of the Universe Origins Deluxe Mossman. I got to give a big shout out to my buddy Tony from RetroCon. RetroCon is coming up this September in Oaks, PA. And he saw this at store and, texted me and said, hey, do you need me to pick one up for you? And I said, yes, please. I had been to my local Walmart and couldn't find one. These are $40, which is pretty expensive for a Motu Origins figure. I know the flocking process adds some cost there. But $40 seems like a bit much. I do remember Panther, the flocked Panther, being pretty expensive compared to Battle Cat. So I guess that's just the reality of it with flocked toys. Sometimes it's the same price though. Like there's some flocked Funko Pops and they just still cost $10. So I don't know whether it's perceived value or actual cost. But it's got some beautiful artwork on the back of the package here. It's got Mossman sneaking up on some of the new Snake Men characters. And if you look carefully, you can see that we've got a regular Mossman here. We've got the yellow Mossman armor, or Beastman armor, and a more savage head. If this figure was cheaper, or I found them on clearance, I would consider getting two, because I would love to display him with the savage head and the yellow armor on. But I need just a regular Mossman also. So I noticed Turbodactyl is on the top here, but also on the side panel is the giant long-necked dinosaur that has the gun in its belly that never got released but was shown off in some Toy Fair catalogs. I can't remember what that figure's name is, but I love that he's shown off on the package here. Ooh, his mini comic is like fed through slits. Really beat up. For a deluxe toy that they know is going to collectors, this wasn't the best packaging option. I mean, I know it's just a mini comic, but it's pretty mangled. It's called Poison from the Start. It's got Mossman on the cover. I'm not really spending time reading it here, but across the land, and Inferno scorches all the paths. We've got King Hiss in a Snake Men spaceship, and Mossman's making some vines to fight the Snake Men. He-Man shows up to help out, and that about wraps it up. Yellow Beastman armor came in a weapons pack back in the day. Many people put this armor on their Beastman. It was a great way to replace the armor if your armor got messed up. You know, like the shoulder pads often get destroyed. But also, a lot of people put it on Mossman because Mossman is just a repaint of Beastman. He comes with a spiked mace or a flail type accessory, as well as his normal mace. He has one additional accessory holding hand because most Master Universe characters have that one open hand, so you can swap it out. That way he could hold both accessories if you want him to go into battle. Now, I don't have a sense of smell, so I can't tell if he's got that pine saw fresh smell that the original one did, but he's very soft. I don't know whether his flocking will wear off in time as you move his joints around, so I will be somewhat careful with that. I assume he has the swappable arm joints, but I don't want to tug too hard. He can come apart at the waist, so some of that swappability is there. I mean, it's probably just Beastman, so that means that really all of his articulation should be there. He's got that standard Beastman head there, but this other head comes from the Lords of Power set, and interestingly enough, there is no flocking on that head, which I find a little bit disappointing. They didn't flock his beard or the back of his head or anything. But I do kind of like that head. It's a little bit more ferocious. There's that more ferocious head with the yellow armor. I didn't put the arm bands on him. But I always loved Beastman as a kid. He was in my top tier. I had 3 favorite supporting characters for He-Man. And they were 3 figures I had as a kid. Buzz-Off, Mossman, and Fisto. I really loved that team of support guys for He-Man. It was kind of just the right amount of guys you could play with. So you have like 4 good guys and 4 bad guys and have a little battle, on the floor of my bedroom. His feet look like little fuzzy socks. There's no toe detail and they're so fuzzy. It just kind of cracks me up a little bit. But I really do like this guy. Is he worth $40? Probably not. I'm glad I have him because I really do like Mossman. These figures cost are they $14, $15, something like that. So if he was $20, I feel like that might be the premium price. I don't know. Some of the deluxe guys feel more deluxe because they have like a big action feature and multiple heads and some big bulky accessories like Dragon Blaster Skeletor or something like that. But he's in a window box, which is interesting. He doesn't have the same kind of packaging as those deluxe figures. So it's a weird deluxe presentation. This window box reminds me more of like the 2-packs that they've done. And if I was getting 2 figures for $40 with some extra accessories, then maybe, I'd be into it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Is this highway robbery that Mossman is $40? My buddy Tony actually told me the girl at Walmart rang up the 2 Beastmen figures, or the 2 Mossman figures, and she goes, that can't be right. It was like, $39.52 or something like that. And she's like, that can't be right. Nope, that's the price. The last figure I want to show off today, and our final piece for this episode, is G.I. Joe Classified's Bazooka. I've been getting in several classified figures recently. Torpedo just arrived, Scrap Iron just arrived, Bazooka just arrived recently, and I picked Bazooka to be featured in this episode because I love Bazooka. I know he's like goofy in the cartoon, and that's enjoyable too, but I also just thought he was cool as a kid. Guy with a missile launcher is always cool, and a guy brave enough to wear a bright red jersey into battle, I don't know, it doesn't get much more cooler than that. So there's Bazooka in his little box. And then, of course, we get the little foot locker. So I missed out on pretty much all of 1985, which is one of the best years of G.I. Joe as a kid. My mom was just not really big on me having military toys, and it wasn't until 86, and my grandmother started just getting them for me anyway, and then my mom loosened up on the whole idea. But a lot of my friends had 85 figures, and so I did get to play with the original Bazooka a fair amount, but I got the Tiger Force Bazooka and loved him. I also have the classified version one of him, but haven't opened him yet. But we've got Bazooka here. He's got his jersey here with the number 14 printed on it. There is no raised deco for that 14, so there's a very good chance that this t-shirt type torso is being used for other people. I don't know. I didn't compare it to Outback to see if it's the same torso as Outback, but it would make sense. He's got his wristbands. He's got that big, thick belt. He's got his green pants with the pockets on the side and his boots. It's a really pretty nice representation of that original figure, like really well detailed. They didn't change it up too much, which I love that when they kind of just hyper detail what was there. Kind of the way Masters of the Universe Classics really just took the action figure and made it the way we saw it as a kid. Just made the details better. So Bazooka has a backpack. It has a little clip on the bottom, which I think allows it to hold the missile launcher. The vintage backpack did not do that, but it's a cool idea. It's a great way to, let him carry more gear. It does have slots for missiles to be stowed. The original backpack did have the missiles just sort of like sculpted in there. They were non-removable, but it does look really nice. And I think starting in the 25th anniversary, they did make 3 3/4 or 4-inch bazooka with removable missiles. Now there's one that's painted. So this is the one you would use if you want to kind of give it a little bit of a display ability. You want to show him loading it, or one coming out the tip of the bazooka. You might want that one. I'm going to plug this into his back. Bazooka's one of those characters that looks a little bit funny. He doesn't have straps sculpted on him. So how's he holding up that backpack? I don't know. But I don't care. Here's his helmet. It does have the chin strap hanging loose, which we often saw in animation or comic book form. It was not on the original figure, but that looks great on him. And then, as I mentioned, here is his bazooka, which is much larger than the bazooka he came with on the vintage toy. Which is probably good that it's a little bit bigger. Whoa. It's got a little shroud that pops off here, or pegs on. So you can hang that off of his shoulder. You can clip it to his backpack, or you can load it onto his arm so he can fire it. Unless you've got a hard, fast rule about wacky colors in your G.I. Joe collection, I think Bazooka's a tough one to pass up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in every week and checking out the show. Tried to put some diverse topics into this episode. I've got a couple big episodes coming up soon that I need to edit. One's going to definitely come out in August. The other one's probably going to be in September. I also need to watch a bunch of movies because I'm going to be on an upcoming episode of Hack the Movies with Tony. over on his channel, so I got to get some work done there. But do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, share this video with a toy collecting friend, consider joining the Patreon if you want to support this channel financially, and thanks for hanging on the peg with me.